I once heard you say that racism is a learned behavior, right?
Right.
You have demonstrated racism can be unlearned on an individual level. Question I have is, do you believe it can be unlearned on a collective cultural level?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've seen it happen. You know, believe it or not, I have spoken at Klan rallies and Klan meetings. I've been invited to speak there. All right. So I'm speaking to a group as opposed to individual. But not that night, but shortly thereafter, I began getting emails from some of the people who were in the Klan at those rallies that I spoke at. And next thing I know, I'm getting some robes and hoods in the mail. All right. But it all depends upon how, as a group, we learn things in school. We learn them in our church. There are three places where we get the bulk of our education. There are four, but the three main ones are our parents, because we know from birth we're raised by our parents. We're influenced by whatever is in our household until we move out, right? On our own, 18, whatever age we move out or run away from home. So we learn from our parents. We learn from our schools. We spend 8 hours a day in school or whatever. And we learn from our religious institutions that we go to, our churches, our temples, our synagogues, our mosques, whatever, okay? And then the fourth place is on the street, right? But these are the three main ones where we learn. And we spend more time in these places than we do on the street. We take our parents as figures of authority. So even if they tell us something that's not right, usually we accept it, especially at a young age, because it's coming from our mom, from our dad, so it must be right. They know. I also fault a lot of religious institutions. I'm just going to use the word church, but when I say church, it means all of them, whether it's synagogue or whatever else. Most religions have some form of Sunday school, and you're down there as a little child, and you're learning. Sunday school teacher tells you, God loves us all. God made a rainbow of different colors. He loves every color in that rainbow. He loves us all, right? So she's making the rainbow, analogic to race, right? So we accept that as little kids because it's true, because our Sunday school teacher told us, so it must be true. She's the adult. And then when we reach adolescence or whatever, we get kicked out of Sunday school up to the upper congregation upstairs, where we're sitting with our parents and other adults. Here's the problem. The clergy, the pastor, the minister, the reverend, the priest, the rabbi, whatever you want to call your clergy, stops teaching that Sunday school lesson. He or she is no longer saying, we all are God's children. Because if you're in a Catholic church, he's not going to tell you to go out there and marry some Jew. Or if you're in a Jewish synagogue, they're not going to say go out there and marry some Muslim or some Protestant or some Catholic, You can, but it's not going to happen in the synagogue. They're not going to marry you there. They're not going to marry you in the Catholic Church, all right? Unless the other one converts to Catholicism or converts to Judaism, all right? Or they're going to preach. It's okay if all you white people want to go out there and marry some black people. No, they're not going to say that, all right? Because what happens if they say that? Half the congregations are get up and walk out, and the other half is going to complain and get you fired. But one thing for sure that's not going to happen is nobody's going to put money in the collection plate when it gets passed around.
You brought up a great point, because me and my brethren, we have this conversation in regards to the black church and how the people dictate the message, right? So, for example, if a pastor is saying something that's actually beneficial, he may not necessarily have a crowd at his church. But if he's saying something like a prosperity gospel, it's the same thing, but it seems that because leaders aren't really leading, they are contributing to the issues we have in society.
Right.
Because within the context you're saying, because they're not just teaching people reality, they're just conforming to the mass.
What your congregation wants to hear.
Instead of actually teaching them what they need to hear.
Right, precisely, okay? Because you want to hire, a church is a 501c3, it's not for profit, right? They thrive on the donations. As Christians, we're supposed to give 10% of our earnings as tithes and offerings to our church, all right? That's how the church lives, how it thrives. So if the minister or whoever, the clergy, during the sermon most people just doze off during sermons, right? And then when the thing comes around, they put in their customary $1 and they go back to sleep. I'm just being honest, right? Okay? But if that preacher or whatever is saying something that's really hitting you in the heart, like, yeah, amen, say it, brother, Bob, that sermon is resonating with you, here's $20 in the collection plate, right? And you stay awake. That's the kind of preacher the church wants, because it's going to make more money when that plate goes around, all right? So what these people are doing, these clergy, they are putting money above morality. It used to, they used to preach money is the root of all evil. Morality, money. Now it's this way, okay? Just like the televangelists, send in $1 for, blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, they're driving Rolls Royces and all kinds of stuff, and you're sending in your Social Security check. It's crazy. It's a business as opposed to a religion. It's a business. And that's what has happened. So I blame a lot of the fault of division in this country on the churches, as well as the schools, being hogtied to what they can teach and what they can't teach.
But it also seems like geographically, well, I read something. Schools I don't know if they said they're more segregated now than they were, or it's the same amount, but schools are pretty segregated in America.
Yeah,
truth be told.
And what's being taught is pretty segregated. If you're up here in New Jersey, so if you go to school in the North, you are taught in history class, American history, in high school, that the Civil War was fought over slavery, and that is true. However, even to this day, if you go to school in the South, you are taught, no, the Civil War was fought over states' rights. Yes, that's true, but it's the state's right to own a slave. They just don't frame it that way. All right, this is how they frame it. All right, and see, you have you don't see so many Confederate battle flags flying around here, as I see where I live in Maryland, and I see even more the further south I go. All right. And let me tell you how I feel about that flag. Now, this is my opinion. I'm going to give you some facts, but I'm going to give you some opinion, all right? So let's start with the facts. Do you know where the largest percentage of white Americans come from, what their heritage is?
No.
What would you guess?
I'll have to go with like England or Ireland.
Okay, so you're saying Great Britain?
Yeah.
Okay, answer is no.
Yeah.
That's the second largest percentage of white Americans. They come from Great Britain, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, all right? The largest percentage of white Americans are of German descent.
Never knew that.
Yeah, check it out. Fact check me. So anyway, but regardless, all right? Let's say this. You a football fan? Okay. Just name me two teams.
NFL teams?
Yeah. I'm not a football fan either.
New York Giants.
And what's the other one?
Baltimore Ravens.
Okay. So New York Giants and Baltimore Ravens end up playing each other in the Super Bowl. Okay, who wins? Anyone?
Giants.
Okay, Giants win. Okay, keep that in mind. All right, so now back to my history lesson. All right, so we went to war, we being America. We went to war against Great Britain. And we beat Great Britain, which is why we celebrate what? The 4th of July, Independence Day, right? There are plenty of white Americans in this country who descended from Great Britain. They have ancestry there. They can go back there today and find their third cousin removed or whatever, right? And they don't have any animosity towards their heritage. We love Great Britain now, all right? But these white Americans of British descent don't run out and build statues to King George III or fly the Union Jack. The loser does not get to build his statues or fly his flag on the winner's property, all right? Which is why we fly the American flag on 4th of July, not the Union Jack, all right? We went to war against Japan when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. There are plenty of Japanese Americans in our country. They are as American as you, I, or anybody else, All right? We did some terrible things to them, put them in internment camps and stuff, but these are Americans. They gave up their Japanese citizenship and became Americans. They love their ancestry in Japan, but they don't run out and build statues to Emperor Hirohito and fly the Japanese flag. Japan lost. Doesn't get to build its statues or fly its flag on the winner's property. We went to war against Germany in World War II, right? The bulk of Americans, white Americans, are of German descent. They don't run out and build statues to Adolf Eichmann and Joseph Goebbels and Adolf Hitler and fly swastikas, swastika flags, unless they are neo-Nazis or something like that. All right? So guess what? The Confederacy lost the war. They need to get over it. They don't get to build their stupid statues of Confederate generals and fly Confederate battle flags on the winner's property. They lost. They can fly that flag, take that statue, put it in a Confederate memorial museum, build a Confederate memorial park, fly your flag there, build your statue there, go kneel beside it, plant flowers, do what you want to do. You don't fly the Confederate flag above the state capitol.